when we start talking about functional rock work, functional pieces, functional backyard hardscapes, is where do you start? You know, how do you start? Well, what I like to do is I like to go to stores, I like to go to markets, various places, and just look to see what's cool, what's happening, what are people buying, you know, what are the trends, you know. And so I picked out several for this class. First, which oddly enough, you guys were talking about doing a mailbox, right? So I got a regular old mailbox, and I'm thinking, okay, well, what are we going to do with, you know, with a regular old mailbox? So what I did was I said, well, let's make it into a piece. This represents the mailbox. People can drive through. There needs to be a draft on it because the trucks get real close, right? You don't want anybody tagging it. But then let's put a little floral, you know, let's beautify it. So this piece right here will be made out of foam. We'll embed the mailbox, and it can be made so that we can channel it. We can leave the existing post there even, or cut it off and just slide this thing on top of it and sculpt it in place. If we don't want to sculpt it in place, it'll be heavy enough so that it won't be moved, and we can just level it out with rock and gravel and then just get it where it's set and let the grass grow up next to it and clip it and whatever, right? So it's a big stone that'll be in the front. Nobody's going to have one like it. I mean, I've done a few over the years for friends and whatever. I mean, people try to build them out of brick, and you know, it's like their own little personal thing, you know. But I figured, well, a mailbox is something that's easy. It's not going to require a lot of material, and the fact that it's going to have foliage features in it is a big perk, because that gets the homeowner engaged into the actual piece. You know, you can have vinage, petunias. There's all kinds of stuff that you could throw in there. In fact, if we do it right, you know, it should be very enjoyable, and of course it's not just a mailbox, it's actually something that's really impressive, which leads to, hey, where did you get that? You know, I mean, it's creating a buzz. You know, it's creating a buzz. Yeah, we're going to do one.
It's going to be pretty neat looking.
Next up, oh, and by the way, I should probably say this now. The pieces that we make are going to be featured in a promotion that we're calling Bourbon Street Sculptures. So this place has 45,000 followers on Facebook. They run about 25,000 people through here in a week. I mean, there are hundreds of thousands of people that come here all the time through all the Chicagoland area. So it is a lot of potential business, right? So I'm thinking, all right, well, let's just do a promotion. Bourbon Street Sculptures, kind of catchy, kind of cool. They don't have no idea what's about to hit them, right? So this one's called "You Got Mail," off the famous movie, right? And that'll be in a Instagram piece and on a Facebook piece in a template that, you know, that shows the piece, the functionality of it, a little, you know, 15-second clip or whatever. I'm trying to help you guys understand the marketing side of what I do too, because that's also very important to our craft. So we'll take that, we'll put it up there, and we'll be able to, you know, push it out there. And then of course we'll sell raffle tickets, and we'll put an approximate value to it, and we're just giving the information to the general public. So if I did get a call, or somebody did get a call and say, hey, I want one of those, you know, I saw that at Bourbon and blah, 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 or I want it, you know, this is cool, or whatever. All that content and information of what goes into it is there. We're also going to take pictures of it in this size and the process, you know, just not the whole process, but snapshots of the process. So that also makes a cool video too. 30 seconds of clay, foam, spray, carving, throwing color, all that stuff, and then boom, it's in the beer garden, with people, looking at it and whatnot. So it's that's kind of cool too, because it also gets people to involved and say, oh wow, anything can be made. So the next piece, so it's funny because I'm sitting there at Home Depot with Jody and I'm like, man, there's like this idea. I got this idea and I don't know, I'm just right at the tip of my tongue. He's like, well, have you ever considered furniture? And I go, yeah, I've considered furniture. I just, in my mind, I don't see it just yet. And he goes, well, here, check this out. And he threw this at me. This is a, here, hold that. You've all seen these cushions, right? Well, he hands it to me just like this. And I immediately saw the shape of the rock. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, well, I know what it looks like now, Instantly, right? So I thought to myself, let's make a piece of furniture. Obviously, if you're going to make a piece of furniture, it should be pretty, you should know where it's going to go. I said, well, here we go, right here. So you can see how the feet go down, the back, it's all curved, We'll have the ladies sit down and make sure they're comfortable. And then, of course, if you're going to sit there, what's going to make it really nice? Well, I figured an ice rack right here, a place for drinks, another, maybe a foliage thing right here. I thought of maybe running a power line up to it so you could plug in your phone, have a little cord out, just functional stuff because it's out there. When it's not being used, it's just an oddly shaped rock that's in the middle of the yard until a nice day, and then you throw the cushion on it. Actually, that's an outdoor cushion. You could probably leave it out there. But you get the point. It's like, this is kind of like where I'm going with it. So you can have you can start a whole business just in lawn furniture that's functional, that's rock work, that's not furniture.
But you wouldn't be able to move it though, right? I mean,
well, you could, with some difficulty, you could move these pieces.
It's going to be basically there.
Oh yeah.
You're going to need a few guys to put it in place, but then the customer's not going to move it.
And that can do all 4 seasons in Northwest Indiana?
Of course.
Well,
yeah.
I'm assuming.
Once we get it fabricated and made, then we'll hit it with our sealer. Now there's going to be some maintenance issues like anything else in life. Nothing lasts forever. But if you take care of the piece.
You coat it every so many years? Or
yeah, you put another, put another sealer on there. I don't like sealers per se. I don't like the glossy, plasticky look. You do all this, you put all this effort and work into making rock work, and then you destroy it with a shiny coating. The third piece is what we call the Bourbon Bachelor. All right, all these pieces are named, and they're going to be put in the beer garden and, presented to all the public. So the Bourbon Bachelor is a big rock piece. It'll have a lot of nice fractures in it. This will be really relevant for building any type of fractured rock, especially if you're into the pool industry. So the Bachelor, it will feature 2 of these grills embedded, in the rock work right here. I could go for a bigger one, a big grill, but I thought nobody really uses these guys, right? So I figured one will be for and we'll put charcoal in and get them all cooking and whatnot, and we'll put skewers of shrimp, Cajun shrimp, maybe some Greek chicken souvlaki on this side, so a bunch of skewers, and then on the other side, which will be another one, we'll do maybe a couple pieces of corn and some burgers or something like that, right? And then this piece right here is another cap, all right? That'll be right here, and that will cover up an ice rock, all right? So we've got 2 burners, and we've got an ice rock that'll be covered, because the sun will just roast it, right? But you'd be surprised how long that ice lasts when it's inside of the concrete. Because it's like these are like thermoses, this is like a massive Yeti, you know what I mean? When you dig it out and you put ice in there, it it holds some pretty good, it holds the chill. So you've got this, and then this hole right here will go inside of the hole, and it will get, offer up, and I might elevate it just a little bit or whatever. Or it could be down, or it could be, you don't want like a lot of, you don't want to put like a cooking element right on top of your, your thing, but if we offset it a little bit where it's like off right here maybe, and it just kind of covers this area, we might be able to get away with it. But there you go. There's probably 30 of these different name brands, whatever. We'll pick one that we like. Shots on the rocks, and that's going to be like a standing bar, which will also have a very rock element to it, but it'll be drafted and cut to hold ice, drinks, not drinks per se, but shots and like the various liquors that they put in there. Right now, what's really popular is like everybody likes their shots super cold. So everything's in ice, and there's a station, and again we'll have another umbrella over it of some kind. But these are some of the pieces, and then of course we'd also have a fire pit that we can do, which is this right here. These are like, I don't know, maybe 50 bucks. They come in all sizes. Now, when we're talking about fire pits, I never contain the heat. So there's fire pits that, go down into the, they go down into the ground. And I want to be very clear, because I've had some guys try to do it, but it's failed miserably for them. So you've got a fire pit, where it's like this, and the fire is here, and it has a stand, and it's, that's where the fire is. The fuel and the fire is right there. Well, that's if you were to put that around foam and make that look like a rock, you're going to contain that heat. The heat's going to want to radiate out, okay, and it's going to destroy, this area. This hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of degrees that you're trying to contain. So that's not what I do. What I do is I use a bowl, and I have the bowl, okay, and the rock work is like this. This is a cutaway, so you can see, but the rock work is like this, so that's the side view. So the bowl is being suspended by concrete, and the fuel is right here, and so you've got your fire, and so there is some radiant heat that comes off the base of that, but when you're open down here, most of the heat is escaping, and you don't have any destruction of your artwork, okay? Now, I've done it both ways. I've built rock work out of solid concrete, and just carved, kind of like like right out of the truck. You just pour it right out of the truck, and I'm stacking it. Long before it was popular to stack concrete, artists like myself have stacked concrete and carved it when we didn't want to, do all the forming work. Okay, so there's heat. The heat gets so intense that you'll get your popping. What's happening is the air that's trapped inside of your rock work superheats, it expands, the concrete doesn't know how to deal with those types of physics, and it'll pop. The only way to get around that, which is what I'll tell you now, is you mix in several cups of fire clay for every 100 pounds of mix. Okay, and what that'll do is that'll allow you to get up into your 700, 800, 900 degree temperatures, and it'll dissipate that heat and heat sink that stuff out so that your concrete won't be destroyed. Now you'll still get the carbon, and you'll get the black soot and all that kind of stuff that'll burn up everything, but you're going to get at least because I've done fireplaces where I've actually carved the inside of the fireplace, so that's got to be treated with fire clay as well.
Like
so
refract?
Yeah.
Like refractory?
Yeah, exactly, refractory clay. So I mix that in with the concrete, and that becomes a part of my sculpting design. Now you could take regular mixes like this, like the True Pack and the masonry mix. You could add fire clay to that, and that will help you get those higher temperatures. That's only if you're going to be carving something that's is going to be in direct contact or within close proximity of high heat. That would be the only way that I would ever attempt to try to contain. But even then, I still wouldn't use this as a substrate for my heat elements at all. Okay. So whenever you're dealing with heat, you got to take into consideration that. Now, on the same token, that's using natural fuel, hardwoods, things of that nature. When you get into gas, there's like no heat. I mean, there's heat that comes off of it, but there's no heat radiating out of the bottom. There's no heat. There's no coals sitting there. It's not, piping up, through all of your metal work and translating the heat in other places. So all of your gas or propane or that type of those heating elements, that's a very controlled, generally speaking, low heat radiating, out of that kind of stuff. In fact, you've got stoves and decorative rock where the gas comes up through the decorative rock. If you've done any landscaping, you've done fire features where you bury the controllers or the dissipation, pieces. I've done water and fire work where I've carved waterfalls, and then I've put constant pilot lit heating elements involved, so the gas bubbles up through the water and then it ignites. There's all kinds of things that you can do. But generally speaking, when you're talking about fire pits or fire rocks, if you see me do a fire rock, it's because I'm using this type of a bowl. And I'm keeping the fuel, and I'm keeping the heat elevated above, and we'll also draft underneath of there, so it's an empty void. So, air is a great insulator, so it'll dissipate out. So, the other thing, and you guys can feel free to work with the clay, throughout the week if you wish, but I buy Sculpty clay from Hobby Lobby. At room temperature, it's very easy. You can knead it and mold it. But what I do is I go through the process of, I'll get the natural looking color clay, but if you look, there's color in it too. So years ago, I used to spend a lot of time building these models and then painting them and I was like, oh my gosh, I spend more time painting than I do actually fabricating the actual piece. So what I do is I take a little bit of color, just a little bit of color, and I knead it together so it's marbled. So I have somewhat of a color already, and I always tell the client, don't worry about the color, because the color is your choice, and I don't know what your choice is yet, or what you're feeling or leaning to, or maybe you just say, Nathan, you're the expert, you do it. I just want it to look good and natural. That's fine, that's music to my ears, because of course we know how to do that, right? But you do have clients that say, okay, I want it to be some odd, weird color. But for clay purposes, I mean, I've used this clay for years, and you can see when we're done, I'll just smash it together and we'll do whatever. We've captured it. Jody's captured it. We've got it on film. We've got it on pictures. We know what we're angling for here, So it's not cheap. I mean, you'll spend a couple $100 easily, buying a lot of clay, but I strongly recommend that you get the clay, because there's so many things that you're going to learn at this stage, okay? There's so many things that you're going to learn. And I'll show you some principles here. Like, it's real easy. Hobby Lobby sells these kits that you can buy with these weird tools and stuff. A knife, a flat piece of metal. I mean, when you're shaving it, you can just slice it, and it just slices, and you got a nice sharp edge, okay? It's really easy to manipulate, and you'll have fun with it. You'll spend hours. Yesterday I was just kind of horsing around, just thinking about some things, and you can see your creativity can go anywhere you want. I did basalt pillars, bubblers. In the Pacific Northwest, basalt is like extremely expensive to get in any big size. You could get a small piece of basalt that's been core drilled and the friggin' thing weighs like almost, 200 pounds. You can't hardly move the thing. It's got to be embedded in something to keep it, erect. And then all of your water systems are underneath of it. I mean, it's a big, basalt bubblers and rock bubblers it's a big thing. So you can imagine what people think when you get like 5, 6, 7 foot pieces of basalt that are substantial. The people's heads are like, oh my gosh, how did you get that in there, and how much did that cost you? And you see, everything that we do, right? Everything that we do has a perceived value to it. When a mason looks at my stone facing work, they automatically look at it and say, oh, well, it would take this many yards of this, or this many pallets of this, and this type of rock, and oh, I can see how he did this, and wow, those are some pretty nice lines, and there's no four ways, and he's critiquing my work because I sculpted it as if a mason actually put it together. All right? There's an art to it. Now, that gets destroyed when you have this lick and stick crews get in there, and they just glue the stuff on any old way, and they have no idea what they're doing. If a mason did it, he'd be like, yeah, well, if that was my guy, I'd fire him, I can't tell you how many times I've heard that. Because glue is a remarkable thing, right? It doesn't take any thought. But I've actually gone and I've looked into classes where they actually build rock with no mortar in the hills of Great Britain, or in Scotland. Joni's been to Scotland. He took a tremendous amount of pictures. You can't put, there's stone walls that have been standing there for hundreds of years. How do they do that? There's no mortar out there, right? Well, there's an art to putting it together. So if you start to digest this stuff and get this into the noodle, and I can't stress referencing enough, and you start to look and devour and get this stuff into your head, it helps you in the design process. Those of you who are designers know this, because reference is everything. So everything has a perceived value, right? But the point I want to make is perceived value is value. So if you can make something that looks ridiculous, but you execute it properly and it looks nice, it's like the onlooker's like, oh my gosh, did they crane that in? How did they, oh, that's got to be 15, tons, they start to evaluate things, and every time they think about something or the complexities of what you've just done, they are assigning more and more value to it. There's an initial value for the weight of the stone or the weight of the piece, right? And that's by the pound, and a quarry will give it to you. That's one part. Oh, it's 15 cents a pound, whatever. Okay, so it's 5 tons. Let's figure it out, right? All right. It's a whole nother thing of how do you get it out of there and into my backyard,
Tearing up my grass.
How much of my sod's going to have to be replaced, the heavy equipment, the tank bars, the people that are doing everything. You guys that are in the pool industry know this, when you're digging and excavating and you got to lift a pool or a prefab or whatever, a fiberglass pool over some dude's house. How nerve-wracking is that? And then they wonder why it costs 35 grand to do the excavation and install, or more than that probably. I don't know. I'm not a pool guy per se, but so you can design your way completely out of your competition. Any questions about what we've talked about so far? I don't want to keep gushing and gushing and gushing and overlook something. But do you see how these are all relative, and see how all these things can kind of lead in to things? All right. And by the way, the Hardscape system, did everybody get access to their content? Tom, did you get access? Good, good. So there is a Hardscape System class on there for free. There's dozens and dozens of videos in that section. And then YouTube also has that as well. So if you guys want to look at that, be my guest. And I did bring the part A of the stone matrix. I know George, you have this already. This is a great tool. If you guys know what the stone matrix is, it's a design element. I use it for hardscapes. It's very fast, very fast. In fact, it takes the design element completely out of it. Then it boils you right down to, how many of you guys have not seen the stone matrix?
I think we watched a little bit of it.
You haven't seen the stone matrix? You guys have all seen the stone matrix? Oh, you use it?
Used it yesterday.
Oh, you did? Tell me about your experience. I thought George was the only one.
That's awesome. We used it at the wine cave as well.
Oh, you did?
Did a couple walls out of it, like whole walls.
So for those of you who don't know what it is or haven't used it, it's real simple. You've got these pieces. It does have some texture to it, but it's not designed to be the texture, all right? It's 16.5 inches high, which fits perfectly underneath of your seat wall height. So you can it's just one course and you just stamp it right in there. But these are designed so that no matter which way you put it together, you will get a different pattern, okay? So there's 6 of them all together. There's 2 sets of 3, but I could choose this side or this side, and I could choose this way or this way. Either way, no matter how I put it together, I get a different pattern. And so when you're doing walls, as long as you don't put the same color and use the same sequence, you'll have random patterns on your walls all the time. The 6 pieces that are together on this, I think, generate 48,000 different combinations. And also end for end. So if I took this and I connected it, it's designed to connect so you can just go right on down the line. No matter how you put these together, they'll connect, okay? And then the next one will be there and it forms a rock in the middle.
Where do you get them?
Wall tools. Or you could buy this copy. I can't tell you how many countless hours I've spent in front of the wall looking and designing. And I teach the design in the classes. You guys will have all that. But it really is a great asset. So no more questions. What we'll do is we'll get into some of our cutting tools, and then we'll get a piece of some of our foam, just so that you know our schedule, so you understand our process. Today, we're going to be building these pieces, okay, and getting them the way that we like it, and then we'll shoot them with structure coat, and that's as far as we can take it. You're bound by process when you're working with concrete because we can't put the Carve coat on until the structure coat's done. So generally speaking, if you're going to build a rock like this, don't just build one. Build like a couple, or your day is going to be, over in just a few hours. So we'll take time to build all these pieces today, and then we'll structure coat them, and then tomorrow we'll have all this stuff to sculpt and carve, okay? So that's the process. You can't stain it until it's dry. You can't carve it until the structure coat's done, and so forth and so on. So just kind of like use that to your advantage. That's like when you give somebody a price, you have to kind of think about that, how many days are involved, depending on how much you can produce and how much can be done. And if I build an ice rock or a flower rock or a planter rock or whatever I'm building, I'm always trying to use my time efficiently. It's like, okay, I got this lady over here wants this, and this guy over here wants this, and this guy over here wants this, and I'll build all 3 of those pieces in the same time frame that I would normally have charged one guy to build one piece. So I'm magnifying my time, because they're pretty easy to, once you understand what's going on here, it's like, okay, as long as you've got the material and the tools ready to go, I mean, you could be pumping stuff out all the time, Now it's a matter of, do you have rubber walls to keep all the stuff that you're making? So you have some place for these to go. In this case, we're putting them in the beer garden so that they can be seen by the public, and we're raffling them off and creating a spectacle or raising awareness in the south side of Chicago about, vertical decorative concrete.